If you've ever felt like you need to master a Spanish grammar point before moving on to the next one, you're probably holding yourself back. The truth is that thinking in terms of Spanish grammar mastery is keeping you from getting fluent. Today, I'm going to show you a much more effective way of looking at Spanish grammar, a way that gets you speaking more confidently faster, and stop getting stuck on the things you think you should perfect before moving on. When you stop obsessing over mastery, learning Spanish will start to feel a lot easier for you, and you'll be a lot happier with the progress that you're making. And I'm telling you this from experience because I too love to be able to check off boxes and feel like I'm done with it and I've mastered it and I'll never have to revisit it. But the reality is that back in the day, my Spanish did not improve because I had mastered grammar theory. It improved mostly because without knowing it, I was revisiting the same grammar over and over again naturally, which is exactly what you're going to learn how to do. So let's talk about why trying to master grammar is the opposite of what your brain needs, what to focus on instead, and a real example from inside my conversation program so that you can see exactly how this works with real Spanish. And before we dive in, if grammar has ever stressed you out or left you wondering what to focus on first, my Spanish Fluency Blueprint was designed to help you cut through some of that noise. It shows you the exact order to learn things, how to balance grammar with real-life conversation, and how to use the spotlight method that we're going to talk about here in a bit. You can grab that blueprint in the description or by going to ericakorealanguage.com/blueprint. So many learners tell me, for example, I can't move on from the past tense until I master it, or I should really master direct and indirect object pronouns before moving on to something else. But let's take a step back and think about what mastery even means. When most people say master, they mean something like, well, I'll always know which past tense to use, or I understand this concept perfectly and can use it perfectly. But that really isn't how language works. Trying to master a grammar topic really puts a lot of pressure on you, and it tricks your brain into thinking that grammar is something that you conquer purely through logic or explanation. But Spanish really isn't mastered through explanation. It's mastered through repetition and use. And you just don't get enough exposure in one sitting or a few classes to truly master something. Mastery comes from encountering the same grammar point over and over again in natural context over weeks and months, not from memorizing a chart or understanding the concept. And that still doesn't mean that you'll never make a mistake, because we all do, even in our native languages. So understand, you don't need mastery before moving on to something else. You're going to hear and use every single major Spanish grammar point over and over again in natural Spanish. Is this making sense so far? If so, give me a like on the video to let me know that you're following along. Your job is not to master. Your job is to stay consistent and keep shining your spotlight. What do I mean by that? Not focusing on mastery doesn't mean that you don't focus on something, but instead of trying to perfect one topic, do choose a focus for the week or for the month, and do shine your spotlight on that one thing. It could be preterite past tense, imperfect, or the difference between the two, verbs like gustar, present tense, pronoun, subjunctive, you name it. But as you're learning about that thing and as you're noticing that in context, do keep inputting, keep listening and reading, and keep outputting, speaking and writing in general, not just doing exercises for that one thing. Because natural Spanish, of course, includes everything all at once. So even when you're focusing on object pronouns, let's say, you're still hearing past tense, adjectives, ser versus estar, and everything else. This creates layer after layer of exposure, which is what leads to mastery. So here's exactly what to do. Pick one grammar focus for the week or the month. Get lots of input where that grammar shows up naturally. If you're learning past tenses, for example, you may want to listen to people telling stories about things that happened. Get opportunities to use it in real conversation. And as you do that, let the rest of the language wash over you. And be sure to review the same grammar that you were focusing on a few weeks or months later, but without pressure and without feeling like, oh, I already went over this. I should know it by now. Forget about all of that. Just know that with every review, you're adding more layers of exposure, which is exactly what your brain needs. And again, if you're having any trouble choosing what to focus on or wondering how to extract a focus from a piece of content that you already like, then do grab your copy of the Spanish Fluency Blueprint. It gives you a simple roadmap to help you create a balanced routine that includes grammar, but without overlooking the essentials: the input, listening and reading, and the output, speaking and writing, which are the things that actually help that grammar stick. Let me show you what I mean with a real example from inside of our Caminos Conversation Club, which is our group Spanish learning program. This month, our level 2 students inside the club are working on direct and indirect object pronouns. And as part of their weekly preparation, they receive several short texts and audios like this one. Have a listen. I have highlighted the direct and indirect object pronouns for you.
Mandar y compartir cosas. ¿Les mandaste las fotos de la graduación a tus primas? Sí, se las mandé anoche. Yo se las mandé a Eduardo y Patty. ¿Y te respondieron? Sí, me dijeron que están muy bonitas. ¡Qué bien! Yo también se las mandé a mis abuelos. Seguro que les encantaron. Sí, las guardaron en el álbum familiar. Me alegra que podamos compartir nuestras fotos con la familia.
So yes, our spotlight this month is object pronouns, and this particular week working on the fact that le and les changes the se when it's before lo and la. Maybe you're familiar with that, maybe you're not. But in any case, you can see these object pronouns in several places. So this is the grammar point that we're intentionally focusing on. But notice everything else that's happening here. And this was just a really short snippet. Look at how much natural grammar shows up without us even trying. This gustar type verb of encantar, les encantaron. Those verbs work differently than other ones. That's been a focus another month. The expression me alegra que, which is a subjunctive trigger. The verb poder in present subjunctive as well, podamos compartir. We have connectors and natural expressions like que bien, seguro que, también, time expressions like anoche. And a big thing that stood out here to me is a lot of use of the preterite past tense. Mandaste, mandé, respondieron, dijeron, les encantaron, guardaron. We spent our previous month of October practicing the preterite tense. And even though our spotlight has moved on, here are the preterite tenses again. Not in a chart, not in an explanation, but just in real context. And it's going to come up over and over again as our students practice this month in real, meaningful conversation, which is exactly where it belongs. And because of that, our students are automatically reviewing what they've learned. And our students who are coming in today, tomorrow, or later this month will have that focus repeated in the upcoming weeks, in the upcoming months, as our spotlight not only shifts, but reviews over and over again. And this is why, although when you're a complete beginner, your learning is rather sequential, it's very helpful to learn things in a certain order. Once you're past that complete beginner stage, learning becomes very cyclical in nature and no longer so sequential. But when you're learning grammar in isolation from everything else, disconnected from the real context and disconnected from, most importantly, the real conversations, grammar does feel very sequential and very mechanical. And it's understandable why a student can feel like, I have to master this before going on to the next thing, because it feels like any other subject. It feels like math, but it's not. Learning real Spanish, the kind of Spanish that people actually speak, is cyclical in nature. You circle back to the same structures over and over again, and your brain gets repeated exposure in different contexts. And each time, it sticks a little more. That's why you don't have to master a grammar point before moving on. The beauty of Spanish, the beauty of language, is that it will bring it back to you. And every time you revisit it, you'll be a little more ready for it. I hope that message helps you and comforts you. But again, it is very helpful to shine your spotlight somewhere. So if you're looking for what your next focus could be, I recommend downloading my Spanish Fluency Blueprint at ericareallanguage.com/blueprint. I'm sure you'll get some great ideas from it. And if you're wondering how to pull all of those words and that grammar out of your head faster when you're in natural conversation, check out this video next.